I reached out to you because I feel that the way that people use positive affirmations, that exaggerated way, uh, doesn't work. They think they work, but it doesn't work. What's your opinion on all this?
Okay, so if you have a positive affirmation, let's say you feel you're going to do a presentation or whatever, and you feel like a failure, and you kind of get that sense it's not going to go too well, right? Which is a common experience that people will have. And if you're going to use positive affirmations, you might say something to yourself like, my presentation is a fantastic hit. Everybody loves it, right? Let's say that's a positive affirmation. The problem with that is if you don't really believe it deep down, it creates like friction with the underlying belief that feels true. So let's say if you feel like your presentation is going to be a failure, you believe that, and then you try and put your positive affirmation on the top, then what's going to happen is the underlying belief that feels more true is going to fight back and gain momentum. It's a little bit like if you're in an argument and, you know, somebody says to you, oh, I think Donald Trump's fantastic. And you say, no, he's terrible, he's awful. And then you come back and say, I think he's the best thing ever. You know, it kind of amplifies that belief, and you really start to dig your heels in. So that's why it doesn't work. Now, if on the other hand, you've got an underlying belief that that is the case, that, you know, you're great at presentations and it's going to go really well, why would you need to use a positive affirmation? Because you already believe that, right? So a better way to go about changing your mindset, if you like, is to approach yourself with curiosity and ask yourself an open-ended question. So let's say you're running with all of my presentations fail, it's going to be terrible, you know. Ask yourself the question, will my presentation be a success? Instead of telling yourself categorically the comment, because there's nowhere to go with that, by asking yourself the question, you can open it up. And then you can consider the possibility that, well, it could be, you know, what if? What if it is a success? Well, how could I make it a success? What could I do to make it work? It opens up possibilities, and there's room to grow and move and breathe within that paradigm that you just don't get when you're imposing this thing on yourself. Right. So that's kind of my view. I think it's important to internally have a playful, open and sort of loose relationship with yourself, rather than commanding yourself from a very great height. It doesn't work.
Wow. And so tell me something. Listen, you don't have to be an expert to believe what you've just said, because it makes sense to me. It makes perfect sense, right? That friction you talked about, it does create friction. It's, you know, when you try to impose, you know, that on yourself, right? When you don't believe it deep inside. So my question is then, Sophie, why do people are obsessed with all this positive affirmation? Like I bet that if I go and speak to, let's say, 10 people out there who are into self-development, personal development, they would say more than 50% would say, yeah, positive affirmations work. So why do we want to believe that these things work? Why do we, like, there are popular books out there, like books like Think and Grow Rich, for example. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, these kind of books who say, you know, use positive affirmations, why do people believe these things? Why do we want to believe?
Well, I think we've got to really acknowledge the power of certain authors like Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, also Louise Hayes, you know, about she was a real big proponent of positive affirmations. So these are celebrity authors, and so that necessarily carries a certain authority. And also I think people really do want to believe those things, but they just can't get there. and so it's kind of gives them hope. And hope isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a very good thing. And if you've got some hope, at least you can try it, and it can start opening you out on a path. And, you know, like I said, I mean, if you have a deeper level belief that that is true, then the positive affirmation is, you know, is going to be more likely to work. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, like, we're all human beings. We all have to live in this human world, and it's imperfect and it's filled with uncertainty. And so when we're faced with that as humans, we like certainty. We like to be sure, and we like to be confident that something is going to happen. And the positive affirmations really kind of gives us a promise of that. You know, and why not try it? Why not give it a go? And then you learn through your real life experiences, well, did it work for you? Did it work? Are you convinced? Because
Right.
at the deepest level of power, if you like, is what you truly believe.